Gonna be going over your game. I'm following the Jhin in this case, and like always, I'm gonna start with going over win conditions. Win conditions is something that's really important to kind of rehearse because that shows you what you need to be doing throughout the entire game to set up for your win. Different teams are capable of doing different things, and you need to know what your team can do and what their team wants to do. That'll tell you where you need to set up vision, where you need to avoid, when you can split, when you can't, how you're going to manage your waves, all kinds of things. Okay, starting off with your win conditions. In your individual lane, you have a pretty even lane, honestly. Vayne's really strong in this patch, and so is Jhin in an early laning phase. If you're playing this lane smart, then you're going to probably not end up with a kill, and they're playing smart. They're probably not going to end up, with a kill. It's it's something that it's a poke versus a sustain lane, and you don't have a whole lot of damage to be followed up with, right? A Soraka is good for sustain, but that's not going to help you secure any kills. So it's going to be really tricky for you to just get fed in lane, but it's not a bad lane. It's a fairly even lane. What that means is you need to be very worried about what can happen with the jungle, because the jungler is going to turn the tide of your lane, or a mid lane roam, or a top TP. So your lane is going to be decided by how you manage waves, basically. How you allow for those gank opportunities, and what you call for and tell your team about. If you tell them that this is warded, if you tell them that this isn't, etc. The rest of your team has very good engage between the Malzahar just R'ing someone, the Shin taunting someone, and the Evelynn flanking someone. That being said, your entire team comp is based off of picks if you try and do that. You don't have a good team fight, you have a very good engage and pick. Their team is similarly a pick comp, but their team comp wants to split to do that. Your team wants to group to pick, their team wants to split to pick. Vayne is always going to want to split push, Diana's going to want her own lane, and Akali is going to want her own lane. Jax is going to want his own lane. Everyone's going to want their own lane, which means you're going to need to either be able to respond to all of these people or be controlling what they want to do and starve them out in a way by grouping correctly. So it's really important what you do in the kind of mid-game phase with grouping. It's really important also to be respecting how quickly these characters can push. All of these characters can push very quickly. So that again comes down to wave management. So around early game, I wouldn't be expecting too much to happen. Be taking trades whenever you can, etc. But whenever the clock is at danger windows, you need to make sure that your lane is accessible for your jungler to gank, but also so that you cannot get ganked. Keeping an early pink ward here won't probably do anything since Evelynn's not the type of jungler that ganks very early, but she's not even going to use it after 6 because she's stealth. But if you wanted to try and protect yourself from roams, right, a pink ward over here at the top of her red camp is going to prevent most mid lane roams that would come through the jungle. And then all you need to worry about is one ward here and one ward in river, and you've secured your lane from most mid roams and all jungle ganks. So that secures your lane, prevents you from feeding, but that doesn't do anything about your rotations. Since your rotations are very pick based, but you have a Malzahar to set up for these picks, it should be pretty easy if you watch the Diana's teleport to come mid and just ult her, and then you chain your CC and she just dies. But again, you got to make sure that you're not going to get pushed in during that time because you can lose out for that. Okay, that's enough on win conditions. I'm going to start watching the game. I just think win conditions is something that is really important to talk about because that's telling you what you should be doing. A lot of games, okay, here's another problem. Let me skip that. This is something I hate whenever people AFK under turrets or AFK and base or are not defending. It's the easiest thing to do, and it's something that's improvement. If you watch by just warding, you're doing great. If you watch by standing here, you're doing great. If you put a ward here and you stand here because your team's AFK, you've just done your team a great service. Because so often, a first blood can happen through something that's just someone not paying attention, and that can lead to tilt, and that But that's not the bad part of it, right? Even if it didn't lead to tilt, that leads to an XP lead and it leads to a gold lead. That gold lead means they have an extra item in lane, which means they can probably out-sustain someone, which maybe if the Akali gets that, and that means she has extra kill pressure on the Shen, which means she can kill the Shen, and all of a sudden she's now got another XP lead. She hits 6 first, she kills him again. These little simple things of watching for an invade is something that is a very easy thing to improve, but a necessary thing. Because this is improvement. And if you're not doing everything in your power to win, you are not trying to climb. Straight and simple. So if you're trying to climb, you need to be doing everything, and this is something. Don't AFK under turret. This is a horrible habit. Ward, and if your team isn't warding, or providing vision, ward one and stand in the other. You'll prevent a lot of early deaths that way. Terrible habit. Pick your music out in queue, pick your music out in loading. Don't pick it out once you're in the game, because once you're in the game, you should be present. And now look how scared you guys are. You have to sit in this bush. So, because of your vision control, you notice that the Jax started topside. And one thing that's important for every lane and every role, every jungle, even in the jungle, right? It's tracking the enemy jungle. Because I told you one of the things that was important was to be watching for danger windows. Since the Jax started topside, if he does his standard clear, he's going to be looking for a gank between bottom and mid between 3 and 4 minutes. So if you manage your wave correctly, you'll be having it bounce back to you, so that way it's in a very secure spot and you won't be able to get ganked. In a similar fashion, you're going to want it to stay somewhere around here, so the Evelynn could potentially gank around 4.5 minutes. And this is all just very early planning of how you're going to manage your waves and how you're going to play this lane. Strategy is a key part of League of Legends, and you could be thinking about something as simple as danger windows and providing vision to deny. It's really simple things, but a lot of the times they aren't considered. And now let me watch your lane a little bit. Level 1 and 2 is incredibly important, but there was no way you were going to beat them to level 2 because their jungler started top. So what do you do? Here, I would just let it get all the way into your tower, like what you're doing. I wouldn't even be standing that close to the bushes because you know the Lux is in there. You managed to dodge some harass, but because you were posturing up, your Soraka postures up, and your Soraka takes a lot of damage. And because of what you were doing to try and trade harass, you end up missing half of these minions. Not half of these minions. 2/3 of these minions. So if you had just waited for it to get to your tower, pretty confident you would have been able to get at least half of them. At least one more. This isn't that bad. A lot of this is your Soraka trying to play aggressive early. She's not respecting that the Vayne can condemn. Whenever she's playing up like this, you're making sure that they can't engage on you, but you kite back a lot. One of the things that you should be doing to position yourself in a situation like this, I understand what you're doing. You don't want them to go on you. But there are ways you can make it so that way it's still a 1v1. And a 1v1 at this point in the game, as I said, is kind of even between you and the Vayne. And your lane is a sustain lane, so if you do get these trades, ultimately it's going to pan out better for you guys. What you do to get trades that it's only a 1v1 is you position yourself top, right? If you positioned yourself up here, you're out of range of the Lux, but you're within range of the Vayne where you can trade damage, and you're not able to get condemned either. In that type of situation, you might have been able to even pressure the Vayne off of killing the Soraka. I don't know if you would have been able to turn quite the same on the Lux, but the Vayne I don't think even healed. Like, you should not have ended up with a kill here. Oh, she did heal? Well, she's flashed too late. But again, I don't think this is too bad. It's just one of those like nuances that I'm noticing. You can posture up here, That'll allow you to trade with someone and potentially protect your support without having to go in an extremely dangerous position like your support was. At this point, I would be playing back. As I was saying about the jungle timers, if this wave pushes to you, it's a good... Oh, never mind. You see Jax up invading. So that's what he was doing. Now I'd be playing up quite a bit. It would probably only take you 3 autos to kill the Vayne, and if you had your crit and your Q, it would only take you 2. I would definitely be playing up. You flash Q here. Yeah, you're not playing aggressive enough whenever you have an advantage. You you definitely could trade on this. I'm not sure if it's because you're not watching the map where everyone else is, or if you just uh, are afraid of these trades for some reason. Maybe you didn't think she used heal, because I didn't think she used heal until I watched it a second time. But yeah, that's a very easy trade for you. You could at least be zoning her off those minions. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you don't think she has, or you rather you think she has heal. Otherwise, you would have had to have been playing aggressive there. So if you're paying attention to jungle timers, right? And I told you that 4:30 was when the Evelyn should be bottom. Well, in this situation, since the Jax invaded and he didn't get what he wanted, right? He's going to be bottom around for 4:30 to 5 minutes. And as kind of proof, here he is right here. So after this, you're going to want to recall. Um, Even if you don't have an item, it's the wave's not in a very good spot to you. Pushing out another one is bad, I think, because he's yeah. Didn't the Jax just hop over here? Is that what happened? Yeah. Okay. So you did recall. I think that you stayed a little bit too long. If you were tracking the enemy jungler, I would have been trying to respect that a bit more, and you would have been able to back on a cannon wave. Um, the amount of time that it would have taken them to push that out, right, from where the wave was, would have probably given you a better recall timer anyways. Unless you really needed the extra money, which maybe you did. Um, but you could have been getting a lot of minions earlier. Like, I've been seeing you miss some CS due to various things. Yeah, that was a risky recall. It wasn't respecting the jungle timer, and it's not a very good time with the not it being a cannon wave. The cannon wave over here would have given you a little bit better timer because you're probably going to get denied half of this anyways. I thought you were actually going to get denied more, but the Lux wasn't helping push. I guess that was fine since the Lux didn't push. Okay. You're watching the jungle and you see that the Jax was just topside. And I know that I'm focusing a lot on the jungle matchup, but that's something you really need to be concerned about whenever you play AD carry. AD carry in most situations, the lane is won or lost either by being just a lot better than the people you're playing against, or a jungle gank, or a mid gank, or something like that, right? Where you create an advantage with something different. You create an advantage by having numbers. One of the easiest ways to create an advantage in lane is by having numbers. And in a situation like where this lane was, you did manage to get a kill earlier, but you also gave a kill earlier, so there's not really a lead here, or there shouldn't be one. Outside of maybe XP because you forced the Vayne out. You're getting a lot of poke in here. Oh, and then she dies for that? Oh, interesting. Your Soraka's playing very aggressive. But maybe the problem is you're not playing aggressive enough. So traditionally, whenever I play with Soraka, I try and be the one who's poking more. Because the Soraka can heal me, right? Whenever your Soraka's going up here, I notice that this is probably the second time you play very, very far back. And the other time when the Soraka was in these bushes, you were playing very far back over here. And you weren't looking to trade on anyone. Now, the Soraka should kind of be recognizing this, I admit, and backing off. But if you were posturing aggressively, you could be denying them quite a bit. You knew that the jungler was top just moments ago. You know Diana's mid. You know they don't have TP. So it's a very safe time to be playing aggressive. This isn't necessarily a bad play. In fact, I agree with her aggression here. What's bad about this is you're not in a position to be able to follow up. And this is all a positioning thing where I feel you think you're going to just lose the lane. Do you see where you walk to? You're walking back, and maybe it's because you were like reloading or something. Maybe. But there's no reason to be backing off here. There's no reason to be this far back here. There's no reason to be turning around again. I mean, at that point, yeah, just take the cannon because. But you're giving them a kill. Look at how easy that would have been if you just flash autoed for it. Your aggression in lane definitely does need some work. And it could be as simple as posturing and positioning in lane. Uh, what's kind of interesting about this is your level 1, you were stepping up, which, I mean, of course, I was saying that that wasn't a time to be playing aggressive. And I said that earlier that maybe your cue was to tell the Soraka also to be playing up. Realistically, you shouldn't have even been up here. You should have just been letting it come to your tower. But over here, you're playing so far back. And now you don't really have an advantage, but yeah, you give them a lot of respect. At this point, I would be a little bit concerned about the jungler coming down here, but then at the same time, here's the next trick to be tracking the enemy jungler. I was watching under standard clear. On the minimap, the yellow icon, the hourglass, means that the jungler is going to be playing to that side of the map soon. Most likely, doing their clear in the most efficient manner, they're going to be going to their buff. In a normal game, that would be a bot lane buff, which would be maybe why you should be concerned. But in this game, that's not the case. So you give them a lot of respect without really having a reason to give them this much respect. If you're tracking the jungler at all, you would know that they're not going to be there. And you both have heal, so it's not like you're at a disadvantage there. That's the type of aggression you could have been doing this entire game. You could have had 2 more kills if you had done that exact type of thing. And honestly, you probably didn't even need to flash for this one. Yeah, okay. Tracking the enemy jungler, you know he's going to be bottom in like a minute. This is a good time to recall. I agree with your recall here. It lets you use the gold you just got from those 2 kills. You know that they're going to be back soon, with the jungler going to be down here soon. Actually, he just chose to clear up. Most junglers skip Krugs. So yeah, that was a very good recall. Huh. So there, you could have done a little bit of tracking, but it would have been hard. Because the last time you saw Diana, right, was here, I would have assumed that she recalled. I would not have assumed she was walking bottom. So going in on that, I agree with. It was mostly because the Evelynn ganked, and it was a good gank. I would not have expected the Diana to be here. The way that this plays out is a little bit awkward, but it's not bad. That was a very good roam. One of the problems and ways you can prevent roams, though, is a very, very interesting thing. You may or may not have noticed this, but you don't ward at all. You might have only warded lane this game, and I'm not going to go back to check, but you don't have your pink ward out whenever you come to lane. You don't have your warding totems out whenever you come to lane. And I know that you might be, reacting to this gank as soon as you come. Sure, okay. But even if you did that, you shouldn't have 2 stacks of trinket. You realistically shouldn't. At any point in time, you shouldn't. You should only have 1 at a time, because if you're using your wards defensively or offensively, you'd have opportunities to put down 1 or 2. So, I know that this is something that you couldn't have seen coming, but the reason you couldn't have seen coming is because you lost vision of her on the wave and didn't see her at any point throughout her roam. Now, I was telling you, one of the places you could have pink warded is over here. I don't think that this one would have caught her out on her roam. Probably wouldn't have. But, and by the time you had one in river, it probably wouldn't have helped either. So I admit my wards that I suggested earlier would not have caught her out. But there was no attempt to catch her out. Now, whenever you get back to lane, I might take back what I said because you'll have more time to set up. But we'll see. You get another free kill. You still haven't warded. Okay, there's a good ward. But a lot of vision you need to be doing with assumptions, right? Where do you think the jungler is going to be next? Because sometimes you don't have to ward, and I'll give that to you. Sometimes you can conserve your resources. But judging by the way that Diana roamed down bottom earlier, I don't think that pinking here is very good. At this point, I would be trying to adapt to what just happened, and I would be trying to get a much deeper pink ward. If you're saying that you don't have the opportunity to do that, all you're doing here is harassing her under turret and maybe going to get like 20% of the turret's life if you auto the turret. So you're just waiting for the next wave. Here's a good time that you could have walked up here and gotten a deep ward. Now, if Diana comes again and kills you again, then here's your reason. Your ward over here is not using your time correctly. So you're just waiting. Diana's not mid. There she is mid. Okay. I think you really do need to work on your aggression. You could have played that much more aggressively. You still ended up with kills, but your positioning in lane is very passive. A lot of the things that is happening is purely because, one, your support sets it up where they feel they have to go aggressive on your support, and their disrespect. Because at this point, look at... Okay, let's see how much damage you actually contribute to this so far. So you missed that. You auto once, and you Q once. So you've probably contributed, I would say, 40% of that damage. Okay. That's not that bad. But the way you back off here whenever they're chasing your support very hard, and then the Vayne backs off, you should be taking your windows to trade on just one person. And you hesitate a lot, which means either you're not recognizing these opportunities, or maybe you don't you don't play aggressive. Maybe that's not your style, but you really need to. You really need to take advantage of everything you're given. And you still get the kills, but again, a lot of this is from their disrespect because they separated and they were chasing the Soraka whenever they needed to be going on you. Your ward did end up catching out the Jax, but you could have also yelled. Oh, what do you do with your yellow trinkets over here? Okay. That's probably fine because you use it for the Vayne. Now you know that this game is going to have a lot of people diving you. Um, I would be really concerned about that, and I'm not sure how much your build can adapt to it, but you're going to have probably an Akali on you, and probably a Diana coming after you pretty consistently. Vayne is going to be split pushing, so if you're going to be split pushing against her, which you might be, you're going to need something to deal with that too. I think that I would be trying to think of, well, I think that I would be getting a magic resist item. Whether or not you think that a Ma is better or a QSS is better, I think personally a Ma would be better in this situation. Only thing you're going to be QSSing is the Lux Snare, and I don't think she's going to be a problem from what's happened so far. But you're definitely going to need a Ma. Diana getting on you is going to one-shot you. Akali getting on you is going to be a problem too. And you just need to survive long enough for the Soraka to heal you. Oh, interesting. So I saw your pings here. You were telling her to fall back. Now, this is something you need to look at too. You are 7-1, and the Vayne is 3-3. You're ahead in items quite considerably because she's building lifesteal, and you have your Yomus completed and a BF. When this is happening over here, the only person missing from this is Jax, right? Do you know where Jax is right now? If you're predicting where his pathing is, he was just bottom. You almost killed him, so he probably recalled, and he probably was going to head top, right? Probably going to head top. So if you're this scared whenever you have a considerable lead, okay, this is definitely a problem of yours. You play way too passively. This is from just in general whenever you're starting the lane to watching the Soraka die in the bushes and backing off, not trying to trade, to the second time when you watch the Soraka die over here and not trying to zone, to the third time watching the Soraka die while she kills a ward. You have a huge lead. And you play like the Vayne can one-shot you with an Infinity Edge and a Shiv. You sacrifice her for farm. Do you see how easily you push them off of this? Do you see how little damage you take? If you're signaling her to be careful off of this ward, you're not tracking the jungler, which I pointed out. You're not tracking the Diana, which I pointed out. And you don't know what damage you do and what damage they do. Because you're so fucking fed. That is a considerable problem. Because if you're playing this passive, you're never going to use your lead. And your awareness for this is you're oblivious to it. You could be walking up there. Okay, you are now. Let's see how much you could have contributed to that. So here, right? You don't know where the Diana is. I would be going to lane 2. I'll be watching my positioning from the Vayne, so I don't get condemned, so I would be standing where you are as well. Diana shows up in the jungle, and here is where you make a decision. Your decision is based off of, is this over by the time I get there? And will they follow, and can we kill them if they follow? Those are the two big contributors to something like this. Also, if you're tracking the Jax theoretically could be coming down here too, but you don't see him yet on your routes that he potentially could be taking. So the only route he has is up here, and you don't see him yet. So probably Jax isn't here. Probably. So this would be a 3v3, and if the Malzahar showed up, a 4v3. So at this point, you're making up your mind whether or not it's worth the risk. And if you do path over there, how do you path over there? I would not personally be going this way because you're setting yourself up to get engaged on by the Vayne. So I agree with you walking this way. But you again step back. I saw that. That I respect. I do respect that. You were looking for you were positioning in such a way that you wouldn't get condemned. Here's a good example of what I was talking about earlier that you should be trying to do. What the Vayne is doing now is she found a position where she can attack one target in a team fight where they're outnumbered. She found a 1v1 in a team fight where it is a 5v3. And the Lux is somewhere over here, so this is a 5v4, but then the Jax dies, so it's a 5v3. And she finds the 1v1. And she doesn't necessarily force you out, right? But this is how you trade in a larger situation like this. She's not necessarily running away. She looked for a place where she could trade with you. She probably should have just left it. But this is an example of what you should be trying to do. And then whenever she finds that she can't just auto one person and they could turn, she leaves. And as I said, it might be too late because there's a lot of people over here now. And she already used her condemn. But I would just be turning on the Lux down here. You let her go. Um, I perhaps respect Diana a bit too much. But yeah, okay. So here's something that's interesting too. After a fight, whenever you get these kills, right? The only thing that truly matters is the objective you get afterwards. So yes, I would take these kills if they're free. Yeah, totally, totally. This whole thing you couldn't have really avoided, judging by the way that the invade happened, and then it just turned into getting kills. I mean, yeah, that happens. But the only thing that really matters is the objective afterwards. So let's look back at this and see what you guys could have potentially done, right? So the fight happens, you guys chase a little bit. This is fine, this is fine. You get the first kill, and I would have immediately turned to get the Lux, and I would have turned to get this. So in this window of time, you spend probably 10 seconds up here. No, more? A little bit more. Probably like 12 seconds. That's enough to potentially push this wave up, and that is essentially a death timer. You doubled their death timers. If you had walked back here and pushed this wave a little bit sooner, you still would have gotten your kill, you just would have had it on the Lux, and you would have been able to push it to this turret faster and almost guarantee this turret. You still end up probably getting it, but the odds of someone being able to defend it go up considerably. Oh, and I would have just stayed for the turret. I would have much preferred the turret. If you guys were going to turn to Dragon, you should have done that immediately instead of... I rant in other videos about the Dragon. This wasn't your call, so I'm not going to really go into it. But you see, you didn't end up getting the turret. What matters about fights is the objective you get afterwards. If you're really low in a fight, for example, and you go to the minion wave to just push the minion wave and you get a turret, you did so much more than trying to stay in that fight and kill one more person. But in this case, you were going to the minion wave to push the wave up so you could guarantee this turret. Do you see how much it's left with? You could have definitely gotten this turret if you had decided to turn to the wave immediately. It also meant you would have probably killed the Lux instead of the Diana. Okay. So at this point in the game, I was telling you that you're going to have a lot of people who are going to want your ass. You don't know where the Akali is, and if I was playing Akali in this game, I would be trying to rotate down bottom. I would be really trying to swap to this lane to get the free kills on you and Soraka. So I would be really cautious with pushing up at this point and beyond. So if the Vayne's going to be pushing like this, and you have no vision up here, I would wait way back like what you're doing. This point, I agree with playing cautiously. Because, for starters, you don't know where the Diana is, and more importantly, in this context, you don't know where the Akali is. Akali is still top, and she looks like she's going to keep split pushing, but if I was Akali, I would have been down here. Because there's no reason for her to be on this wave. But again, you have no vision to really be pushing this, so I agree with you. Playing safe here. Uh, the vision you get down, your pink ward is dead. I would be trying to put some of these 10 kills into more vision control, because the way you're going to die is with getting picked. If you can pick your fights, you're never going to die, right? Because you're really fed, and you're going to pick one that's behind the Shen or behind the Malzahar ult, right? So you need vision over here, and you need vision probably in river. And I would really be wanting to group here. But if the Vayne's going to be constantly split pushing, you're going to need vision. I would be trying to get also the Evelynn to come down bottom and kill the Vayne again. Because at this point, if the Vayne's going to be split pushing like this and risking her life to do this, the play would be to punish her by killing her and then taking the tower. And the safest way to kill her is with vision and your jungler. You have one trinket. I sometimes keep one for bush control. Here's an example of that vision that you could have had. You could have known this was coming. Anything that happens here is because you guys didn't have proper vision. As I said, Akali should show up bottom. That's what I would be doing. And you can easily get dove here. This is good respect. This is great respect. You're staying out of the range of the Akali engage, and you're still managing to wave clear. That was good positioning, but it was understanding. Understand this is a different situation. Earlier, whenever you had a lead and an advantage, right? Your kills, your summoner spells, your health bar, etc. You weren't using your advantage. In this case, you had a disadvantage. So yes, I agree with playing safe. So maybe your problem is recognizing advantages, but this is just staying consistent with your play of being safe. I'm just telling you, this time I agree with you. I also agreed with you staying back over here. Yeah, and this Diana's down here too. Everyone wants your ass. And this is the correct move. But do you know how you saw the Diana coming again with this vision? And you need to be helping set this up. You really need to make sure you're helping set that up. That pink ward could be saving your life. Plus, at this point, staying for this wave it's fine more or less. But also, you're going to the mid wave. Now you're going through kind of a risky place. See, the Diana could be zoning you out, and it's kind of lucky that this is warded in this game. This is what you want to do. You want to be mid right now. You want to be grouped. Evelynn gets caught out with the ghosts. That's good. That's what you wanted to look for. The Akali's on the top side. This is a weird thing again with your positioning. You definitely position too far back. This isn't even a playing safe thing because at this point you couldn't even kite to some place that's safe because the safest point at this stage is in the center of your team. And where you walk back to here, do you see what you do? You get a good ult off, and then you start walking away like the Akali is going to engage on you for no reason. Because if she engages on you and you kite back, you're fucking dead. You need to be kiting to your team. Recalling here to catch the Vayne, not necessarily catch her, but match her split. Okay. Um, there's the Kali waiting off to the side. Hmm. I do agree kind of with matching the Vayne split, but there's a little bit of a problem there, and it's again talking about what do you get after you get these kills. You do you do get the turret mid, but whenever you start responding to all of their pressure, that's whenever we start having problems. So from here, whenever you get your kills, and Shen just ults mid, you know this minion wave is probably going to be able to continue pushing, and it's probably going to be able to take this turret. True. But you have 5 people mid. They have one dead, one almost dead, and one not here. You could probably trade a turret for a turret if they decided to keep the Vayne down here. And since Akali was on, or no, Jax was on Herald, right, down here, that means that you probably had even more time to do stuff. Actually, no, 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 no. Never mind. Since Jax took Herald, if you guys didn't respond to the Vayne, Jax should have just come up here and popped down the Herald, which means that you would have lost probably inhib. So yeah, you're completely correct. I agree with you. It's just this weird overstay, which isn't even your fault. Yeah, so I agree with this. Totally agree with that. What? Mm, wow. Okay. So I don't understand what this is. There's so many things that are weird here. This is a really bad fight by you. So the way that this fight starts, you look like you're trying to flash over this wall. That'd be a terrible place for you to engage because you would 100% die. If you're tracking the enemies, you know the Akali's right here with stacks of her ult. Vayne still had condemn for the initial part of this. She condemns him here, but if you were looking for that flash earlier, just to get the 1v1, you could have potentially lost this 2v1, even if the Shen got his taunt on the Vayne, just because this is an assassin, and this is kind of an assassin. Disregard the Diana, which you don't see to begin with, but this is a terrible idea to be flashing this whenever it's clear that you need to be kiting to your team. Where you can set up an advantage is obviously when you have more members, right? Where you have more members is over here, not over here. If you set up a fight over here and you try and kite to your team up this way, right? You're going to be going through their team too. If you try and kite back, you're isolating yourself. So for starters, this would be a really stupid idea to flash. The second part of this fight is you getting way too aggressive. Now, you miss your W, which is fine. I mean, that stuff happens. But the second the shroud goes down and you flash, you commit to your death. And you always need to be thinking, again, what can you get afterwards, right? If you had flashed here and you had killed the Vayne, you 100% would have died to the Akali. So that means you wouldn't have gotten any objectives out of it, except for you would have given them a shutdown kill. And you would have killed the Vayne, who has died 4 times already, which means you got standard gold. But what could you have done in another world, right? Okay, if you had gone up here, you had taken the fight with more members of your team, that means that the Vayne would have been fighting the Evelynn too, which means that you wouldn't have had to flash over here, which means you wouldn't have had to deal with this shit. Okay. Now, the problem here is mostly greed, but it's awkward because this is the first time you've greeded this game, which is inconsistent with your super passive play. You decide to flash in the middle of an assassin. And you have no defensive, so you guarantee your death for nothing because there's no objective you're going to get after this. You die. In another world, right, where you get this kill on just the Vayne, what do you do after that? Well, you take your people who are still alive, right? Looking back here, right? Shen's still alive. Evelyn's still alive. Shen engaged this because you were there, right? But you could have been there sooner. And the Evelynn could have been there sooner to get her combo off. But in that other world where all 3 of you survive, you could have grouped mid and shoved for this, potentially. Or at least you would have denied these 3 kills. That's really weird though, because that is the first time you've greeted for something. I agree with coming mid here. I'll be trying to get red. Going for the Vayne is fine, but you're not going to be there in time. Yeah, you're just going to pick up a kill, but you already got what you wanted. And you didn't end up getting this turret again because I don't know what happened, but you didn't end up getting it. This is something you could have gotten earlier in the game. What is Shen building? Okay, that makes sense. So a lot of these problems that you're having right now with kind of just map control, right? Overall map control this game, the problem is largely wave management and responding to their split push. As I said, they were probably going to want to split push. That's what this team wants to do. But what you do is you always react to it. You react to the Vayne every time you see her. You react to the 1v1 up here, which I think that the Shen probably would have died in this case if you didn't come to it. But if you always are reacting like that and you're never getting an objective yourself, you're eventually just going to lose. Their damage to turrets stacks up. And that's obviously a problem because the turret that you were supposed to focus, right? This is your lane and you still don't have this turret. And now it's 20 minutes, and you're never allowed to be down here again because you always need to be around Baron. So the window to get this turret easily is gone. And it's because you're always trying to respond to their split push. And of course, always, as in like twice now. You've responded like twice to the split push. Um, but that's kind of a bad habit. The first time, I kind of agree with it because the Herald take. The Herald take means that they probably could have gotten a lot out of splitting top if they decided to. Um, but going to Vayne whenever she had already gotten what she wanted only got you a kill and not much else. Let's see. What else could you have done? Right. So remember when the Evelyn dies over here? You could have been for this one. You could have been here for this one. And if you were here for this one, and you were controlling this wave, you could have potentially been pushing for this turret, or you could have used this window to get Baron control. And after you have Baron control, you could either bait a fight around Baron, which is exactly what you guys kind of want to do, a grouped fight that you have a pick, or you could then use it to rotate top lane where Shen's stacking and then maybe get this turret too, right? It gives you more opportunities. When you respond to this, which was going to be responded to anyways, right? See, Shen was walking top and he's the one who should be splitting anyways, right? He probably wouldn't have gotten the kill, true, but the kill doesn't really matter here. And if you had been mid to kill the Diana, Vayne would have had to have recalled. Diana's dead. Lux is dead. That's a Baron. That's realistically a Baron. So perhaps this is the second time you've greeted. And yeah, in this case, again, I do agree with this for a lot of different reasons. Mostly because I wouldn't want to be near the Akali or the Diana, and this is just the safer option. You peeled him off the Shen too. Your vision control is kind of lacking. I don't know where your ward is. I think the books are Soraka's, because there's two down. So you're going bot for this wave. I think this is a good idea. You don't want Evelyn to show on this, because that would mean that you give up Baron. Huh. Yeah. So this is again a vision thing. And interestingly, you end up dying here because you try to play safe. You hover around this area because you can't make up your mind whether or not you want to show up to the fight with the two assassins or whether or not you want to keep farming. But truthfully, since you don't know where their entire team is, since you don't have any vision over here, since they have essentially 5 assassins because Lux is probably going to want to pick you from Fog of War, you can't. You cannot push this. If you had showed up over here, realistically, you still would have lost this fight. Probably. Probably. But then again, your decision to stay here wasn't a good one either. And there's part of the reason why. Something else that is worth mentioning, I know that you were probably walking in a way that you wouldn't get condemned, but you always need to be trying to trade auto damage back. If you don't trade auto damage back, they have no reason to fear you. A turret, believe it or not, does far less damage than you do. So since you're not trading damage on her with, your like 2.5 completed items, she has no reason to not dive you. So there was no way you were going to live that if you weren't kiting it. Kiting implies you auto attack. Just walking away is not enough. So far, your problems are vision control. You play way too safe in a laning phase. You don't recognize when the jungler is going to be bottom. You you greeted over here, but this was just awkward. I think that I really don't know what this is. I'm going to consider this a fluke because it's so inconsistent with the rest of your play of just being scared that that flash, that suicide over here just doesn't make sense. Um, but your decision to respond to pressure every time instead of potentially pushing, uh, your greed for the wave over here that lets you die to the Vayne, and your kiting. I don't know why he went and did that. Uh, there's nothing left for you bottom. I wouldn't be bothered with this. If you try and push out another wave, they could still honestly be waiting here. So I don't know how intentional it was, but this actually was before Soraka got here and started pushing it. Was a very good slow push. Setting up a slow push here gives you the ability to create pressure around Baron, which is good. I don't like how Soraka's pushing a little bit faster, but then the Vayne shows up. Okay, and there's what I was saying, that the Vayne could have been here. So exactly what you did was great. Then rotating to Baron was great, but let's watch you respond to this Vayne. Uh-huh. Oh boy. Oh boy. That's not what you want to do ever in this situation. Whenever you're behind as an AD carry, there's a trick. If you can keep the fed as fuck AD carry in your lane, you make him irrelevant. So every time you just hunt this Vayne down in the 1v1 or even the 2v1 because you're both down here, you're not helping your team. Now, what does this mean? Does it mean you give up inhib? Not necessarily. It means maybe you send the Malzahar, who's 2 and 5, down here to stop it. And the Malzahar really wanted to stop their recalls, so he can be here. He wants to be here. But by you doing this, the 14 kills of your team, that's over half of your kills, aren't there when this is happening. And do you know what happens here? This is when the decision is made. You're all in just as capable a position to walk down bottom. But you decide to do it. You only respond to pressure, and you make yourself irrelevant by doing this. This is a huge problem. You need to know when to lane swap. See? This isn't even a matchup you can win anymore. So, a nasty little trick I like doing whenever I play AD carry and I know I'm going to be dealing with shit like this, I get Ninja Tabi. It's a nasty little trick that keeps you alive for a little bit longer. And sometimes it's all you need. But you want to know another nasty little trick? And I said it before, and let's see if you can guess it. it's trading damage back. Do you see what you do here? One auto. Look at all this healing that comes in at you. Do you think you could have autoed maybe 2 more times there? Maybe even W'd? Maybe even Q'd? You accept your death whenever you do this. So, your kiting needs work. Your positioning in lane is way too passive. The greedy as fuck fluke play that I don't know what to say about. Your vision control. You respond to pressure instead of creating pressure. You don't know how to lane swap. You don't track the enemy jungle. You don't value turrets. Instead, you value the extra kill instead of moving the wave up, like I said. Your minion wave management is okay. A lot of the stuff that happens this game is just because their win condition is everyone wants to split, and if they split, they win. So, your guys are kind of playing into their hands. And again, it's not completely your fault, right? It's not completely your fault. But whenever you choose to try and, stick here with the Vayne, you're irrelevant where it matters. And you could just as easily have put the Malzahar down here. And the Malzahar probably could kill the Vayne with no defensive items. You probably could kill the Vayne too. But you gotta auto her to kill her. What the? I wouldn't have flashed there either for that kill. I know you saved someone's life, but all of your decisions need to be thinking about what you're going to get after it, or what you can, deny them from getting, right? By killing the Vayne here, by flashing for it, you denied them the kill on Evelynn, but they still got this. They still got this. They still got this. And now you can't play aggressively, because now you have no flash. So if Diana goes in on you, you're dead. If Jax gets on top of you, you're probably dead too. What if you had flash here? And now, over half of your team's kills are dead. So now know what else you lost? You know what else you lost? And realistically, you know what else you lost? Because now all your inhibs is down and you can't respond to this. The game ends here. Realistically, the game is over. They don't have to do anything special to end. They just get Baron, walk it down in all the different lanes, and you guys lose. So once more, your problems. You position way too passively in lane. You think your support's being an idiot, but you're actually the one kind of making her an idiot by not following up. Whenever you see these situations, I told you one of the tricks you can do is play to a way that they only can have one person trade on you. That's how you could have played the first fight out. The second time that you let her die, you straight up just fucking let her die. Because that one you 100% would have just won and killed both of them. Another time you played safe was whenever you chose to not flash on the Vayne. But this one, I understand that, this is after you had killed the Lux in the 1-for-1, level 2. I understand that you might have thought she still had heal. I thought she had heal until I watched it a second time, so that I can kind of respect. But you still should have been trying to zone her out. You should have. Your next problem is vision and tracking the enemy jungler. Tracking the mid laner was the only case that I think you should have not known that they were coming. I really wouldn't have had any wards up yet to spot that out. But every other situation that someone came bottom, you should have been aware of. Nothing was surprising this game, except for the Diana roam. And you could have set up for a lot more if you had proper vision. You respond to pressure only instead of being with your team. You set yourself up for these deaths. The 2 deaths you had was you wanting to split to match the Vayne and you not kiting. Kiting's another one of your problems. Your greedy as fuck flash. I don't know what this was. This whole thing was weird. Um, you also greed over here though, so it is kind of a consistent play now that I think about it. Whenever you flash over here, you guaranteed your death underneath this turret, which guaranteed them 2 inhibs. Everything you do, everything you do plays out in the time that comes. That kill denied them nothing. Your death guaranteed them an inhib, and probably a Baron. Because you can have Shen in 1 of these lanes. You can't have Shen in 3 of these lanes. Game ended whenever you flashed for the Vayne, basically. You play way too safe, again, on the 3rd time that the Soraka was out here killing the pink ward. You should have killed both of them. It was so easy to walk up here and play aggressively. You had like 7 kills at that point. The Diana over here, I think that this would have been a little bit hard to show up for, I kind of admit. But you kind of neglected it for a very long time, which made me think that you just didn't see it. And if you didn't see it, that's a problem of watching the minimap. Let's see. Respond to pressure, kiting, vision control, passive, greed. Those are the major things. If you work on your lane aggression and your jungle tracking, and you don't respond to their pressure, but instead work on using your lead with your team, those 3 things are already enough to see a lot of improvement. Seriously, those things are really big issues. Your kiting needs work, but I think you have some like, I don't know, paranoia or like some terror of Vaynes. That's what I kind of get the feeling of, because you just accept death in both of these cases. Alright, well that's all I really got for you. I hope some of it's helpful.